Oh, interesting. Elton's happy.
Thumbs up does not work for the audio crowd.
Meh.
That's a good
Deal
day.
with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, for those of you wondering where our last week's podcast was, apparently I decided, or Mother Nature decided it was going to throw tornadoes at me and severe thunderstorms.
At least you didn't catch it.
So, I didn't have any power for like 5.5 hours, so couldn't do the podcast.
Hmm.
So, and then life and work and other crap came up, so this is the earliest we could do it. So, we're cramming 2 weeks worth of racing stuff into one podcast. So,
Hmm.
hopefully, I'll get through it uh, fairly quickly. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So, um, I don't have sim racing news. I don't really think there's much to talk about.
Other than that other wheels
Uh,
coming instead of your Bentley wheel.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
the only news that I remember seeing is that supposedly there's a rumor going around that Corsair's made its first payment for Fanatec for that debt. They made it to Endor, and I guess as part of that payment, they've received the trademarks for the QR2 system, the Club Sport DD wheelbase, and the CSL DD wheelbases. So, whether that's true or not, but that's what's been reported by several outlets.
yeah.
Ooh.
And Fanatec also dropped a GT3 esque wheel for the Endurance Podium Hub.
Yeah,
That
they dropped a wheel rim a la Logitech mod for their endurance podium module thing, which is
yeah.
so lackluster it doesn't even warrant talking about.
And apparently they're only limited releasing it, so it was only
Yeah, it
available
was
for
only 100
spa.
copies. You had to be at spa to get it or something like that.
Yeah,
So
dumb. Not worth it.
That's ridiculous.
no,
So
you could find wheel rims online to fit with the endurance podium module button thing.
mhm.
No problem.
Yeah. The only interesting rumor thing that came out of the whole Endor payment possibility is that they showed them working on a Porsche Vision GT wheel that looked pretty sick, but we'll see if that actually even comes to fruition, like like the Bentley wheel.
Right.
That's still waiting for.
It's
Yep.
never gonna happen.
So, yeah, that's kind of it for sim racing news side. iRacing had an update on Monday. Some minor fixes to some of the vehicles.
No fun.
Um,
Yeah, they
yeah,
made some changes on the rain system and the weather with the whole Nvidia crashing saga that's going on that they think might fix most of the problems that people are having, but it's still not fully fixed.
yeah,
Don, I don't think your issue's related to that system. I think your issue is related to something different
yeah. So,
because it's not happening when you're in rain races. So
right. Yeah.
I
So,
know.
cool thing is like I said, the rain physics look better now, which is a plus. So, we were
yeah,
the other day when
the
we were in the
rain actually
lobby.
collects on parts of the windshield that the wiper doesn't pass over.
Hmm.
Raindrops on the side windows are actually tilted.
Yep.
Um,
So,
I actually had an easier time seeing what various wetness levels on the track,
mhm,
even at low SSR settings. I think I
yeah.
run mine off actually, and that was my biggest complaint at the last track that we ran at, but it was just the same shade of gray. Oh, it was for walk-ins. That's what it was when we were doing the walk-in 6 hour.
Mm.
Like it was all the same shade of gray. It was hard to
Yeah.
tell where the puddles were unless you could literally see it on the edge of the curbs.
Right.
So, but when we were testing at Spa yesterday, it was actually quasi easy to see where the rivers were and where the puddles still were and where the rubber line was that you want to stay off of. So, good job,
Hmm.
iRacing. Keep working.
Hmm. All right. We can just jump right into some motorsport news. First thing I want to kind of touch on, I don't have it here in the notes, but for any of you who have been following along with the John Force crash that happened 2 weeks ago, his seems to be improving day by day. So I believe he had his eyes open the other day and was able to respond back to um, the nurses and stuff like that. Apparently, he's been a handful to them because he wants to. Obviously, he's part of the old school mentality. He wants to get out of the hospital and get back to the track as soon as possible. So apparently, he's been fighting the nurses on getting out of bed and trying to walk around when he's probably not supposed to. So, which I mean, is always a good sign that he's willing to that he's fighting to walk and move around and do stuff before maybe other people feel he's ready to. So just wanted
Yeah,
to touch on that.
wasn't there something like he gets agitated when he's just in the room with the nurses, but when his wife or his daughter's in there, then he calms down and he's
Yeah,
you know, but he can say his name, he can respond to questions, he can move his eyes and everything, but I believe he's still in the ICU unit, but
yeah, he's still.
improving slowly. He's got brain trauma that they're monitoring.
Yeah, which I mean, a crash at 300
Great.
miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing a G figure, but I can imagine it was not pretty if they did have
Yeah.
one.
I don't even know if I imagine they probably have black box telemetry in those cars too.
Oh, I would be shocked if they didn't.
So yeah. Again, well wishes to John Force and his family. Hopefully he's continuing to improve. I know the NHRA posted something yesterday saying it was the first time that John Force hasn't been at an NHRA event since I think like '82 or something like that.
Which
So
is wild because his wreck at Texas back in like 2005 was arguably worse than this one, and he was back at the track right after it.
yeah, he's apparently he's raced with casts over his boot or under his boot and under casts underneath his fire suits and stuff before, and so yeah, he's just
Is insane.
tough,
Hey,
tough as nails, man.
just get some fire material and wrap it around the cast. Everything's good to go.
Yep, yeah. Unfortunately, when it comes to head injuries, though, it's a slower process to recover from.
Yeah, I mean, I never want to talk about legends of their sport retiring, but I gotta think that after this one, he's gonna have a talking to from his family about maybe this
Maybe
event for
part
me.
time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if you can hold him down, man. He's wild.
yeah.
So, but so yeah, again, on good for that. I don't know. I guess kind of well, some sad news too for anybody who follows the Street Outlaw stuff. Unfortunately, Lindsay Musey, she passed away from her battle with breast cancer last week too. So it's unfortunate for that, man. Cancer sucks.
Mhm.
She's huge in the street racing and the no prep drag racing scene. For those of you who have watched the Street Outlaws TV show, stuff like that. So um, I know apparently at the time of her passing, she was dating Jeffrey Earnhardt and stuff. So condolences to Lindsay Musey's family and obviously the Earnhardt family as well. So apparently I guess they had their funeral yesterday or this past weekend, and apparently everybody was doing burnouts and stuff at the outside the funeral home and stuff like that. So it's kind of a cool thing to hear about. So
Yeah.
and they had all of her cars that she'd raced there and stuff like that. Her dad had brought them all there. So fans that came in could look at the cars and pay their respects and stuff like that. So thoughts and prayers to her family and extended family. So All right. Jumping into on track news. Obviously, like I said, we're about a week behind, so we're gonna cover the F1 race that happened last week in Spain.
So we just
Um,
do F1 combined and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
we can do F1 combined and then Watkins Glen stuff, and then NASCAR combined, and then IndyCar. We can just kind of jump around and do that. That works. So.
can we just summarize Spain in 2 sentences
Done.
and then jump to the main event?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the highlights that I have for F1 in Spain is Russell took the lead on the outside in turn one,
After
but then
Norris ran Verstappen into the grass, which will come into
yep,
play later.
yeah, and then Verstappen retake the lead from Russell a couple laps later. Uh, apparently, Gasly's team had problems with their pit stop. K-Mag got a penalty for initially jumping the start. You could look in the back. He rolled like a couple of seconds before the lights went out and then stopped and then went again. So he got a penalty for that. Russell had issues with pit stops. Albon went off the track, and then obviously Max Verstappen came away with another win. Yeah, it was kind of a typical Spanish Grand Prix race. Not a whole lot of action and
Anything.
stuff like. Yeah. The flip side of that, apparently, it was like 100+ degrees there. There was a lot of the track was extremely hot, and there, I guess there were reports of fans passing out in the grandstands and stuff like that. So,
Do they not know what water is in Spain? Do
well,
they
yeah,
only know what wine is?
I mean maybe, but
It's
when
still
it's
liquid.
it's 100 and something degrees and you're standing in metal bleachers,
Eh,
it sucks. Speaking
yeah,
from experience.
Watkins
I
Glen.
mean,
Oh.
yeah, I mean, you're talking to someone who lives in Texas. I get it.
Yeah.
Well, you live
Yeah,
in
it's
the
like
sun, yeah.
yeah, you live in the
I
sun.
also understand. Well, okay. Here's if Barcelona is anything like Coda, then this is where I get very pissed off about racetrack management because you can do whatever you want, but there's no reason why you can't allow fans to bring in fucking water to the race. Like
Yeah.
you're still gonna
Or
have your
have those
DSLs.
cool stations that they have, those misters and stuff.
Well, I
Like I
mean,
know.
like at Coda, when I went, like they've got gigantic fucking water stations which are filled with nothing but hose water, but you've still got to bring in the closed. You can only bring in one closed 20-ounce bottle of water. Like you can't bring in a fucking growler or a thermos or whatever, like a big water jug. So you're just like, what the fuck is the point? Like
So you're
the way
saying my
I
64-ounce thermos that I carry around with water all day, can't bring
Mhm.
that in?
Correct, yeah. And you contrast that with a place like Daytona where they're like, yeah, whatever, just make sure it's not a fucking hard-sided cooler. Or
Or glass bottles. They don't like glass
yeah,
bottles, and
Plastic.
hell, they'll let you bring in Jack Daniels as long as it's in a plastic bottle.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, you look
take
at
a nice nap
fucking
from that.
Disney,
Very
you
nice.
can bring in an entire restaurant in a cooler and they'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Like they do, like I don't understand this uppity fucking mentality from racetracks. So they're like, oh my god, if they bring in outside food and water, they're not gonna buy our shit. Well, if it's not F1, half those times the concession stands aren't even open anyway.
Yeah,
So what
thank
the
God.
fuck does
Right.
it matter?
I was gonna say,
You
Watkins
know?
Yeah.
Glen. We brought cookies in for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, you can bring your water bottles and everything in
Yeah, that's
through
what we
that
did.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were bringing in beer and everything like that. I mean, hell,
I
your
mean,
dad
you're
brought it.
still gonna
Never mind.
get your sales from the food trucks and whatever else
Dad
is
was
there.
bringing in crack.
I mean, it's like when I went to SRO at Coda this year, they had food trucks in the paddock
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
So if the fans aren't buying it, the teams are buying it.
Yeah.
Somebody's buying the food from the food trucks. They're not losing that much money from it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't get that. Yeah, as far as I know, like that's Coda's the first track that I've heard that you can't like bring in like large water bottles and stuff like that. Because I've
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
well, good to know if I ever go there.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do for WEC and on over Labor Day weekend because it's gonna be hot as shit. But
mhm.
You get
All
water
right,
when you pass out, though.
yeah, just bring an IV drip in.
You said the water didn't say IVs.
Yeah.
just come
All
out of
right.
it already hooked up into your body.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to the F1 race at the Red Bull Ring. This happened on Sunday. So on the opening lap, Leclerc ended up getting some damage on his front wing. Let's see
I think
here.
Perez picked up damage from
Yeah,
Piastri.
yeah. Perez got side pod damage with Piastri, which handled the or hampered his car. There's a huge line of drivers all running nose to tail. And so a bunch of drivers decided to pit early to break apart the DRS train that was going on. Alonso had a run in with Bottas, forcing him off the track. Bottas got on the radio. He was not very happy. There's a lot of beeps going on. Let's see. Perez got a speeding penalty in the pits on pit entry. He was like 2 to 3 miles per hour over the speed limit going in, so just laid on the button there. And then obviously the big talking point that everybody's focusing in on is the battle between Norris and Verstappen, which resulted in them making contact and both drivers ending up with punctures on their tires. Looking at some of the other people and some of the other camera angles, some people are saying that Norris shouldn't have made the move on the outside, and then other people are saying that Max kind of cut to the outside to squeeze Norris, and that's how the contact resulted. So, looking at the camera angles, I don't think I've ever seen one of Max's wheel directly, but it definitely looks like he's drifting out to try to squeeze Norris offline. So, but yeah, definitely woke up the race and made it exciting because after that it was pretty chaotic. They had a virtual safety car that was deployed for a little bit to clean up some of the debris that was on the track from their cars, from the tires and stuff. And then, yeah, George Russell, who was sitting in third place, man, ended up walking his way into a victory. So, congrats to George Russell for getting his second career win, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's. Yeah, so Norris ended up getting penalized 5 seconds for track limit violations,
Yep.
not related to the incident with Verstappen. Verstappen ended up getting 10 seconds for incident responsibility when him and Norris came together, which I'm not sure I necessarily agree with, but the part to me that really annoys me with the incident was so Verstappen had the puncture on the left rear with contact with Norris's wing, front wing, and immediately pulled off line and slowed and limped the car back. Meanwhile, Norris didn't know that his car had a puncture on the right rear and was like hauling ass for the first couple of corners after the incident and just absolutely destroyed the floor in the rear of the car and scattered carbon fiber everywhere, which is why the VSC got deployed. And he didn't get a penalty for driving a unsafe car back to the pits, which is what Perez got and Magnussen has got for a wing element that was flapping around. And meanwhile, his car is literally spraying the track in carbon fiber at pit entry, no less, and everybody's like, "Nah, it's good. We'll turn a blind eye to it."
I mean, I'm not surprised given the stewarding for F1 in recent years that this is just overlook it.
Yeah, it
So.
was just very hypocritical to say the least on the steward's decisions, and then yeah, I guess like even in the sprint race, Hulkenberg got a penalty for going off track and
Mhm.
not yielding the position when he was battling with Alonso, and Alonso's like should never have been a penalty.
Yeah.
Um, like he shouldn't have been made to give the position back or something to that effect, and so yeah, it's just very trying to think, was it Johnny Herbert that was one of the stewards this weekend that
Yeah.
made his comments known about why they penalized Verstappen? And, of course, everybody on Team Norris and Team Mercedes and everybody British was coming out and saying, oh, Crash Stoppin's back and all this sort of stuff, Return of the Evil Emperor. And, the first time Verstappen's challenged, he reverts back to 2021. And I'm like, and then I started seeing all the clips of when Vettel and Hamilton went into that corner and Max and Leclerc went into that corner in past years. And, they drifted over onto the curb to give themselves more room or to set up better exits. And meanwhile, Norris is like, nope, white line death. Nope, bye, Sean.
No, Bojo, right?
What did you do to him, Don?
No, I don't know. Apparently I just hurt him.
But
Just that.
yeah, Norris is like, no, white line is wall. I cannot hit it, and instead I'm
Oh,
gonna. That was you. You did it.
that was weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got kicked. Wow.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
interesting.
How's that?
That
How's
was
that
weird.
gigabit internet working out now? Hey, Don.
Okay, wonderful.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Norris, like I was saying, Norris treated that white line like it's a wall, and he absolutely could not touch it, and instead decided to drive into the Red Bull. So I think Peter Windsor's explanation was best. I really thought he had a very level, very reasoned analysis of what happened. If anybody
Severe
out there that
thunderstorm
has,
warning for my area. Sweet.
oh, well. Did a tornado hit the wind farm again?
No. Good lord.
But yeah, if anybody out there can find the clip of it, it's floating around on Twitter and I think on Facebook. Definitely go give it a listen. Peter Windsor is one of the great ones. Definitely knows what he's talking about, and he's far better to listen to than freaking what's his name, Julian Palmer or
Right.
Will Buxton or anybody else on the Sky Sports crew. So it was pretty disappointing to see McLaren behave the way they did, and then there was somebody created a meme afterwards that replaced Hamilton's car with Norris for Cop's corner at Silverstone, and was basically like, well, this must happen now next week, and Norris's dad is liking the meme and all this other crap, and it's again hypocritical. You want to lash out at Verstappen while being the thing that you vilify.
Right.
So it's let's just say I've been extremely disappointed in McLaren for multiple reasons this week after other news that came out today. So
Yeah. We'll get to it after we get done with all the off track
exactly
or on track stuff.
So, yeah, McLaren is nowhere near my. I'm bummed to have a McLaren hat at the moment. I'll put it that way.
No papaya.
I mean, thankfully it's the Golf one, so it kind of doesn't work, but still.
Right. All right. Let's see here. We will jump into 6 hours of the Glen topics. That was a very, very chaotic race as well. So let's see here. We'll get into some of the highlights. The 18 and the 81 LMP2 cars both make contact with each other, and the 18 spins, bringing out the full course yellow.
It was such a weird incident.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. I think, yeah, So, and then the number 65 Mustang had a brake fire. Literally lost the brakes on the car. So that was wild to see that. Literally just pulling the brake pad off while it was on fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. The 04 LMP2 made contact with the 47 Ferrari GT3 car, causing a massive shunt, and that brought out the full course yellow.
Yeah, that was 100% target fixation.
Yeah, that was an oh no Jack moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was homing missile has locked on the target.
Yeah,
Wasn't getting away from that one. I did like all the memes though about that it wasn't a Ferrari taking out a prototype this time; it was the other way around.
yeah. Let's see here. The 31 had a spin through the bus stop as well.
You love to see it.
Just got up on the curbs and lost it there. So
That was that during the first bit of rain?
yes, I think that was the first bit of rain. Because then the 33 LMP2 ended up crashing T1.
As I
God.
said during the race, you can take the team out of LMP3, but you can't take LMP3 out of the team.
Yeah, Sean Crench Motorsports, man, they just wrote that.
Yeah.
They wrote that car off.
Yeah, they got up on the exit curb of T1 and got it high centered under the car, and it just shot him to the right into the pit wall.
Oops.
Yeah.
It was the same incident that damaged the BMW during practice.
Yeah.
One of the BMW GTPs.
Yeah, let's see here. The 44 Aston spun while trying to make a pass on the one of the GT3 Ferraris. I can't remember which number it was. But then the MDK Porsche also got damaged while trying to go around the outside to avoid their crash.
Was it the Risi Ferrari? There was an incident.
No, I don't think it was.
Ferrari was in, but maybe that was during the
I
big
think that
surprise
that was
rain.
yeah, that was during the rain. Yeah, let's see. The 55 Mustang and the 27 Aston got involved in a big crash that also involved the Iron Dames Lambo. That was during
No, the
the
Iron
rain
Dames
too.
was a separate wreck.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was there was one of the LMP2 cars that came through there, and the hood of the Mustang went flying off the roof of the LMP2 car.
Yeah, yeah. That was a big crash in the 1011 complex right there, which is, I mean, it's always tricky. Yeah, it's always tricky. I mean, even in the dry, but when you add rain to those rumble strips, man, it just makes it, I mean, ice.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, obviously the Iron Dames had a huge crash.
Same exact thing, same spot.
Yeah, was it Sarah Bovey that ended up going to the hospital?
Yeah, I believe so.
So after the crash, yeah, because of apparently the G impact pegged the meter, so for safety precautions, they took her to the hospital. Which I think did that result in them not running Spa?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they made an announcement on June 25th, and they said that after the incident at Watkins Glen, Sarah was taken to a hospital for necessary checks and is doing fine, and that's what matters. But they've decided to withdraw from the race to allow her time to recover. Oh, hang on, I got to take a phone call.
Okay. Oh, let's see here. And then obviously the rain came again, and then that was the big crash between the 21 Ferrari, the 78 Lambo, the 13 Corvette was also involved, also the 31 Cadillac, and the number 11 LMP2. So, I mean, it was literally a torrential downpour, and they got caught out right there, and it was
Nothing
no
you can
grip.
really do.
Yeah,
Right.
no grip whatsoever. So yeah, it's unfortunate for everybody involved there. And then the red flag did eventually come out due to lightning because of the severity of the storm. So they were red flagged for a little bit. And then they did eventually get the cars rolling again. They ran around under caution for a little bit. The number 10 Acura ended up losing a wheel under caution, which then pushed the which pushed the caution even further in. So they got green flag with like 16 minutes to go. And then the number 24 LMP2 made contact with the 04 LMP2, which also collected the number 2 LMP2 car. So there's a bunch of LMP2s that got damaged in that. And then unfortunately, the number 4 Corvette was leading GTD Pro, and eventually, unfortunately, he ran out of fuel coming to the white flag, so he had to pit. So very unfortunate for that. They were holding off the number 27 Aston Martin there, excuse me. So, but yeah, the number 7 ended up coming away with the win in GTP for Porsche and Penske. Yeah, the number 88 won an LMP2, and the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin won in GTD Pro, and the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes ended up coming away with the win in GTD. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, race was fairly exciting. Once the rain came, it got completely crazy with all the accidents and stuff like that.
Because the whole entire area on that side was all pop-up showers the whole week, so I was waiting for something like that to happen.
Yeah, it was wild. But yeah, definitely an exciting 6 hours of the Glen. And I guess good thing that it wasn't 900 degrees there. So
yeah, like I wish it was in iRacing.
Yeah,
like the freaking sun every single time.
So yeah, so that was it for the 6 hours of the Glen. Let's see here. We can let's see. We'll jump right into both NASCAR races.
Okay.
So last week NASCAR was at New Hampshire, which was also in the line of rain and rainstorms and everything. So, so let's see here.
Saying possibly like a tornado touchdown was close.
Yeah, it was a tornado, and it was ended up reported just south of the speedway there for a little bit. So, yeah, it was pretty wild to hear. Let's see here. We'll get into some of the highlights there. The 31 car. I can't remember who was in that car this weekend or that weekend.
That weekend, I think it was I think it was Hemrick, wasn't it?
No, was it Hemrick?
I think so, because then I know 16 was Justin, not Justin. Oh my God, AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah. So yeah, the 31 car spun. I brought out the yellow fairly early. Unfortunately, Alex Bowman ended up having motor problems, so that was sad to see. I know you're not sad about it, Don. So, let's see here. More bad luck for Kyle Busch. He ended up drifting up the track and hitting Noah Gregson, wrecking them both.
He is the biggest unlucky rabbit's foot I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, just bad luck continues for him. It didn't get any better this weekend either, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
I think Carrick's tried to commit suicide on
that. Let's see. Barry was off the pace after pushing Corey LaJoy into the wall. Yeah, I don't know what Barry had going on with his car. He just didn't have any speed in it whatsoever.
Yeah. Like similar
Um,
issue that Harvick had last year.
yeah. And then let's see here. Logano and Chase Elliott get into an accident. Ended up crashing into each other. So unfortunate for Elliott and Logano there. Let's see here. Priest ended up hitting LaJoy and spinning him. So LaJoy was getting ran into by, that was the second
Everybody,
incident.
right?
Yeah, second incident he was involved in. Let's see here. Truex ended up driving across the nose of Keselowski and crashing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of arced it down in there and
Oh,
came across his nose and
went right off.
yeah. Let's see. Kyle Busch got spun by Stenhouse. And then Priest got spun by Kaz Grala. So again, Kyle Busch involved in his second incident of the day.
So he killed himself later on. His car decided to kill himself.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Then they brought the red flag out due to lightning and weather. Then the rain came. And then they were kind of him and hawing there for a little bit whether they were gonna start the race again or not. They did have the rain tires there, so NASCAR did decide that they were going to restart the race on wet tires. Which, man, that first time when they got the green and threw it down into the corner, it was like 15 wide. Yeah. Everybody was battling for every position they could get.
Right. That whole entire race, not to copy what Dark Bumper Clear said, but they need to start bringing like the sprinkler system monitoring on
Yeah.
as long as we're taking a short
Just
track.
start hosing down the corners.
Makes it more exciting.
So yeah, unfortunately, Kyle Busch ended up losing it under caution. He got I think he locked up on the paint of the lines and just slid it off and kablammed, and that ended up finally killing off his car, putting it out of misery. Let's see. Chastain ended up spinning it under yellow too. I think he just kind of got on the gas a little too aggressively and looped it around. Same thing with Corey LaJoy again, spinning around and hitting the wall. So yeah. Gregson, who was also involved in incidences earlier in the race, he ended up spinning and collecting Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, Cindric, and Jones. So, man, just
Austin Dillon loves to hit people. We haven't had Joe Nemechek here.
yeah. So more bad luck for Wallace and Dillon. Apparently Christopher Bell was reporting that he was having electrical issues with the car. He was having to shut off all his fans and stuff like that. Let's see. Carson Hocevar spins on his own and brings out the yellow. And then they were debating on whether to put the dry tires back on after this and stuff. But NASCAR told them, NASCAR told them they had to put the wets back on and allowed the caution to stay out long enough so all the teams could put a new fresh set of wets on and also fill up on fuel, which apparently some teams were kind of iffy on fuel strategy, but that that negated that. So everybody was on the same strategy again. Let's see here. McDowell ended up sliding up the track and collecting Blaney. Just over aggressive maneuver.
Which I can't blame him, but he just bonsai'd it.
Yeah, he just kind of bonsai'd it, and
if he didn't wreck himself a tail day and a couple other races, he could be in contention right now. But
yeah, I don't know why. It just seemed like a
toss away.
Yeah, it just, as everybody was saying, it was a low percentage move. So
yeah.
Let's see here. Keselowski ended up spinning to bring out the final caution of the day. I just think he drove it in a little bit too hard and over rotated the car and
took off.
Yep, took off. And then Christopher Bell, even though he was apparently having electrical issues, held off and swept the weekend. He did win the Xfinity race the day before. So congrats to C Bell on another win this year. So, all right. We'll jump into. Oh,
Yeah, he's it.
and he's back from his phone call.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. So, as long as it wasn't an important phone call.
Mm-hmm.
It was my mother calling to complain about the airport.
Oh. Yes, I complain about my job all day too.
It's a valid complaint. It's a valid complaint, so I'm not upset by it.
Why don't they have the food stands over here, not over there?
So what do we cover?
We got done with covering the 6 hours. So we did that, and then we just covered the New Hampshire race for NASCAR. So a kind of overview for the 6 hours. It was wild and crazy with the rain and everything like that.
Yeah.
So.
And New Hampshire also wild and crazy with the rain.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say.
Although my highlight of the New Hampshire race was Bubba parking it in front of Gregson's pit.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up with the trend of people doing that nowadays to show their frustration? Like,
why would you want
credit
to do
Kyle
that?
Busch with it.
Yeah. All right, we'll jump and cover the NASCAR race at Nashville. First stage was relatively clean. I don't think there were any issues. At least it didn't seem. Wasn't able to watch the race. I was only able to watch the highlights.
Gotcha.
Did the race initially get delayed for rain, or?
I think it was racing.
No, the rain came after the race started.
That's why I was able to finish it, because I couldn't have beforehand.
Okay, so yeah, because I've got Christopher Bell ended up taking stage 1.
Yep.
John Hunter Nemechek spun and brought out the yellow. So, you know, I mean, you said it, not me.
Don Driver's doing Don things.
Yeah.
Alex Bowman ended up clipping Ty Gibbs coming off of 4 and spun Gibbs out.
No
Darn.
there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Then because in the highlights they had the yellow out for weather, so that's why I put it in here.
Yep.
So then
turned into a red flag for about an hour and a half,
2 hours, yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah, I know the race was originally on NBC, and then it got switched over to USA and stuff like that. Yeah, and then Christopher Bell ended up taking stage 2 as well. Let's see here. Corey LaJoy ended up sliding up the track and getting into Riley Herbst, who was running an extra car this weekend for I can't remember who was actually funding the car, but it was an SHR car. So
yeah.
Let's see. Jones ended up hitting the wall with a flat tire. Unfortunately, Chase Elliott spun to bring out the yellow. Let's see. Christopher Bell ended up hitting the wall and breaking a toe link on his car.
Yes.
So he was pretty much done for the day there.
How to throw away a dominated race. A tutorial by Christopher Bell.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's got multiple wins this year, so he's pretty much locked into the playoffs. Let's see. Austin Dillon ended up making contact with Keselowski and sending him into the wall. So again, Austin Dillon, no luck again.
I'm surprised they didn't mention it. Oh, I didn't finish Turbo Clear yet, but with the TJ was saying you're clear. Oh wait, no, someone just didn't clear him properly and just killed him.
Yep. And then apparently under the same caution, this is when Carson Hocevar decided he was just gonna right hook
Burton.
Burton, and that ended up resulting in a $50,000 fine for Hocevar for wrecking somebody under yellow. So,
No land.
Yep. Let's see. Austin. Let's see. Cindric ended up spinning
2 laps
out.
ago.
Yeah, 2 laps ago, which brought out a caution.
Caution fest.
Yeah, it's then started the chain reaction of 5 green, white checkers. So Larson ended up bobbling on the restart because he ran out of fuel.
Yeah.
Which that's
that was when he ran up the track and got into Hamlin, wasn't it? On the first restart?
No,
because he ran out of fuel on a later restart. He had 2 bad restarts. And one of them, I think he got in deep and washed up, or because wasn't that the one where he got into?
Oh yeah.
Damn it, was it Hamlin?
And he got
Kyle
into
Busch
Hamlin.
washed up into the wall too, and there was the debate about why Kyle got his 4th place back, even though he was quote unquote listed as involved in the wreck.
Yeah. Yep. And then
they gave a stupid explanation.
Yeah.
So then
they listed him on the damage clock, but then they said no, he wasn't involved in the wreck.
Yeah, and then there ended up being a multi-car wreck at the back of the pack. I don't even know who
started that.
Yeah, it was all I seen on the highlights was like cars flying all over the back stretch of the track to avoid it.
I think they said it was Ryan Priest bopped somebody in the butt, and then they went flying.
Okay. And then this restart from that crash was where the 5 ended up running out of fuel. And then Kyle Busch ended up wrecking as well from this. So yeah, just more shit luck for Kyle Busch, man. Just he can't even get out of his own way.
So bad that his wife is even throwing her 2 cents into it.
Yeah. So and then that started another restart, which then Josh Berry unfortunately ended up getting spun. So yeah. Let's see here. And then on the final restart, they ended up getting away clean, and Logano ended up winning.
Stupid Linguini head.
Yeah, because of just the attrition from all the cautions. Yeah,
I love Hamlin's crew chief. How did he win the race? He was SLO.
Yeah.
W, just low. Hate to say so much shield. That's how he was able to go so long because he was so slow.
And it's asking me for Zen to refresh his browser.
Hooray!
That's weird. I don't have anything on my end.
Yeah, it says you've finished your recording, so you have to refresh and come back just like I had to for dumb reasons.
Damn you, internet! There you go.
There we go. And we're back.
What Dirty Mo Media has flipped to? Get your shit together.
So yeah, chaotic race again after the rain for NASCAR.
I mean, the good thing for me is Bubba finished 7th, which brought him back up into the cutoff for the playoff points. He's 15th now. He's about 50 some odd points ahead of the cut line.
Yeah.
So
sounds like.
Huh?
Oh, I was gonna say with him and Armarola, I guess get into an argument. Sounds like Armarola might be done.
Well,
that was Amarola's coming back, but he's been indefinitely suspended for a while.
Right.
I think it happened was it Charlotte earlier this year or Charlotte?
Yeah.
No, it had to been earlier this year, not last year. But yeah, rumors are supposedly that something happened during So he had the altercation with Amarola during the rain delay at Charlotte last year. And then during a competition meeting, because 2311 and Joe Gibbs crews get together all in the same building for their meetings, something was said, and Amarola basically attacked Bubba or something to that effect or whatever. So things got heated, and then Amarola turned it physical.
Mhm.
is what people are saying, but there's been no official comment from either 2311 or Joe Gibbs on it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So yeah, that was the NASCAR races.
So Amarola out at Joe Gibbs. Kyle Busch comes back.
Well, Amarola runs Xfinity, so
And, I mean, he could do that.
yeah, Amarola is only there as a consultant for the most part.
Mhm.
No.
So, I don't know. I don't have any of the Spa 24 highlights because I wasn't able to really watch
Me
any of
either.
it. I mean, I know again
It's
another
outpouring.
24 hours race affected by rain. I know
All
their
Jack's fault.
major points was that the Ferrari being stopped on track and the Porsche running into the back of it for
Yeah, those like 10 cars or whatever that just blew through that area after double yellows were shown at La Source. They should have been parked for a hefty period of time because that was absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, from what I remember, the 911 Porsche had a massive off late in the race after hitting a wet patch going through Blanchimont.
yeah.
Hit the tire wall, driver's right side of the track, and I think almost flipped over.
Yeah, I think
Or
it did a full.
did
I think it
roll
did
over.
a full barrel roll there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just remember because all you see is the camera looking from the bus stop down that direction. You just see one of the wheels go across the track.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I woke up at that. Like I just happened because I had the race on, and I just happened to like wake up at that point or whatever, and I was like, "Oh crap! There's a car flipping."
yeah, I didn't get to watch much of it either because I was out all day doing stuff, and I watched a little bit of it when I got home. But at that point, that was when they were under constant safety car procession for the rain. I think that
Mhm.
was like the second round of it that they were doing. It was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning local time that they were going through it. I know the 48 Mamba Mercedes that had Daniel Morad aboard, they retired halfway through the night because they had a Ferrari just completely send it up the inside into the source and broke the right front suspension. It was one of the AF Corsa Ferraris that took them out and then hit one of the Aston Martins, I think, on the outside. So
Damn.
they had to retire the car from that. And then the GRT Lambo that blocked the pit lane.
Oh yeah.
One of the other AF Corsa Ferraris that was leading the race came in to make their last pit stop, and yeah, that took the race win away from them. Unfortunately, just terrible bad luck. Because I guess Pierre Guidi, who was in the car, said that if he had known, if somebody would have told him, they could have gone another lap and given him time for the officials to clear that car from pit lane. But I guess race control or nobody told them that the pit lane entry was blocked by that parked Lamborghini. So I don't even remember if it was a mechanical issue or the car just ran out of fuel, and that's why the Lamborghini was stopped there. But
Right.
yeah, just weird race. A lot of nighttime running behind the pace car because of rain. I think they had somebody had a breakdown. It was very similar split times to caution to green flag running as what Lamar had this year, which was ironic. So it was about 3 or 4 hours behind the safety car with the heavy rain at night. No fog, from what I recall seeing. And then, yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, I
That's
think
all I remember.
the 007 Aston came away with the overall victory.
Mm-hmm.
So, first time that Aston's won in a long time there. So
Since
since
1948.
since the DB1 era. So, yeah. So again, another 24-hour race mired by bad weather. So
I do think it is Jack's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Every race he's gone to,
rain.
he's brought the rain.
Well, he didn't go. He didn't go to Nürburgring, so.
But that was fog. That wasn't rain.
Yeah, that's true. So, so yeah, that was the 24 hours of Spa highlights, which I think is that the last major 24-hour race of the year.
Outside of whatever Creventic has on their calendar, yeah.
Right, yeah. But Creventic does their 24-hour races different. They split them up, some of them into like 12
Yeah.
and 12. So, um, but yeah,
yeah, and then the news that also came out of the Spa weekend is the announcement of the 2025 SRO calendars, which tentatively as of right now has Nürburgring, Le Mans, and Spa all back to back to back for 24 hours, 3 straight weekends, which teams and manufacturers are not happy about right now. Mercedes and BMW team bosses have already spoken out that change needs to happen because that's just too much in a condensed period of time.
yeah, especially if we're gonna have driving standards like have been in the last few years, where people just drive outside of their ability.
Yeah, I mean, there
Plus,
was
it
one point during
clashes
the race.
with, doesn't it? It clashes with the 6 hours of the Glen too.
Nürburgring clashes with the 6 hours of the Glen. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's bound to be some shuffling going on, and the clash with Watkins Glen, they set that date because of the broadcast contract that they got with NBC to do the network coverage, and so you're starting to see a lot of puzzle pieces falling into place that will probably have to get reshuffled in the next 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, Spa's forced into their window because of the F1 race that takes priority, and um, Nürburgring's working around some other big events, non-racing related, that they have every year at the facility. So there's just a
yeah.
lot of
And
things that,
Lamar isn't gonna change.
yeah,
That is the premier 24-hour event, so I don't see that date changing at all.
yeah. I mean, they're always Father's Day weekend or one weekend either side of it, so it's pretty locked in. Everybody else revolves around it. So yeah, and we talked about last time out that the WEC schedule released and everything's unchanged
Yeah.
as far as venues that they're going to. So
Yep.
for SRO America, I believe Sebring and Coda flipped. So instead of Coda being in May, it'll be in April next year, and Sebring will be in May. But that was other than that, everything else stayed the same, I believe.
Right. So, all right. Move on to the IndyCar race that ran at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So some highlights from that. VK ended up having a spin, but kept going. Lundgaard had an off. He ended up hitting one of the signs on the side of the track for sponsorship. He kept driving, complaining of car handling because obviously, apparently, cardboard on front wing does not go well. Let's see here. Ericsson goes off the track and got a penalty for crossing back in front of the pit entrance and almost collected Joseph Newgarden when he did so. So he got a drive-through penalty for that. Let's see here. Let's see. Giotto ended up just having an off in one of the corners. I can't remember the name of it or which number it is, but he ended up hitting the wall, and that actually brought out the first actual yellow. Nolan Siegel had a spin in his debut for McLaren and couldn't get the car refired, so the caution came out. Fittipaldi ended up hip checking Stingray Robb, which he ended up giving a drive-through for that. Or he ended up getting a drive-through due to pit exit violation. So he ended up overcooking it coming out of the pits. And for those of you who know Laguna Seca, it kind of, the pit exit like hugs the inside through turn one and then dumps out at the exit of turn one. Well, he ended up locking it up and sliding it through the gravel in between the pit exit road and the actual racetrack, and then just continued out. So they penalized him for that because apparently there's a scoring pylon right there at the pit exit that they use for tire checks and all that. So yeah, he ended up getting penalized for that. Let's see, Stingray Rob ended up having a spin but kept going. Armstrong also lost it at one point in the race. Will Power ended up making contact with teammate Scott McLaughlin. And he ended up McLaughlin ended up spinning because of steering damage. Let's see. Jack Harvey had the only motor failure of the day. Let's see. Simpson ended up losing it on corner exit, and he ended up collecting Ray Hall. And Alex Pillow ended up coming away with the win, so another win for Pillow.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Kind of your typical Laguna Seca race, not as chaotic as it was last year. Last year was just complete craziness with the driving standards. Everybody seemed to be a little more in check this time around. Granted, it was not the final race of the year like it was last year, so that might have played into it. So yeah, it's still a exciting race to watch. There was multiple pit strategies going on. There was like a 3 and 2 stop strategy thing that was kind of playing out. But a couple of the cautions ended up kind of mitigating that and putting people on the same pit stops. So yeah, all in all, good race.
Very cool.
Well, they run this weekend at Mid-Ohio, and this will be the first race for the hybrid era of cars. So we'll see how that plays out with the push-to-pass system and energy recovery and all that.
Yeah,
so I will say it's. I was a little bit disappointed last week when the NASCAR race at New Hampshire got delayed, and they chose instead to show reruns from or race highlights from earlier in the race instead of showing the IndyCar race at Laguna that was starting. And they weren't really talking about where the IndyCar race was getting put onto on network TV. It was, I guess just assumed that if you wanted to watch IndyCar, you had to pull it up on Peacock, but yet they ended up moving it over to, is it CNBC?
Yeah, the last half of the race was on CNBC, but yeah, there was nothing.
No splashes, no infographics, nothing to say, hey, if you want to see the IndyCar race and you're tuning in, it's actually over on CNBC,
Yeah, I guess, was it on Twitter that Hinchcliffe posted that NBC didn't even give them like an ear call out to say, hey, if you want to finish watching the race, you can swap over to CNBC. Like there was nothing relayed. They just kept going on because they thought it was on Peacock too. So
yeah. But yeah, and I mean, even still, those people that were on Peacock, they would have probably just stayed on Peacock. They wouldn't have turned that off to go turn on CNBC anyway. So,
right,
that's probably why they didn't bother saying anything to the broadcasters. But yeah, it was just whether it's a casualty of the losing of the IndyCar broadcast contract from NBC or just a massive oversight. You just really hate to see it. It's just you're like, yeah, if you're bitter, so what? Finish out the year, be professional about it. You never know if you get the contract back after Fox is done with it or whatever. You don't want to burn bridges, especially in the broadcast industry. So it's just poorly handled.
Right. Yeah,
But
I agree with you.
I've kind of expected from NBC covering motor racing, unfortunately.
Right. Um,
Also, I'm not used to NBC broadcasts of NASCAR without Dale Jr. in the booth yet. Not a
I
fan
still
of it.
don't like it. Yeah, I really don't care for it. I mean, it is what it is at this point. All right, since we just covered IndyCar, I guess do we want to talk about the fact now that it's official that Alexander Rossi is leaving McLaren at the end of the year, and Lundgaard apparently is taking over the ride?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any more on track action, do we?
Mm,
No, that was kind of
Yeah.
it. So
yeah, that's
Yeah, so that news broke today that Rossi is out at the end of the year and Lundgaard is leaving Ray Hall Letterman to take his spot at McLaren. So McLaren next year is going to have Pato Award, Lundgaard, and Nolan Siegel
mhm.
as their three drivers. Um, it's just really kind of shitty timing, but unfortunately, you've come to expect it from McLaren on how they handle drivers. Uh, you know, Pato's got the one win for the team, but Rossi's been the most consistent driver all
Mhm.
season. You could
Mhm.
argue. They're fifth and sixth in the championship standings as of right now. He's coming off a podium at Laguna. He's your bona fide veteran in that team. Pato's obviously got the marketability, no question there, but especially as you're moving into this hybrid era, to me, I've always been somebody that values when you have a regulation change, you want somebody that's a veteran presence that's gone through some of these rule changes in the past that is better situated to provide feedback and development expertise to the team instead of going with the young
Mhm.
guns right out of the bat. And that's the same for sports cars and F1 as it is in IndyCar, as far as my particular opinion on it. So now the speculation begins. Does he go to Prema? Prema's signed Theo Porcher, and if they run only two cars, there's one vacant seat open, which had been rumored to be going to Logan Sargent. Does that now change with Alex Rossi being on the driver market? Or does Prema look to run three cars and have Sargent and Rossi under that umbrella?
Mhm.
Right.
Um, is there a spot opening at Penske? I don't think so. Just like I don't think so at Chip Ganassi. So, and I don't see Rossi, who they cited differences in opinion when it came time for renewing the contract. That's why they weren't renewing his contract, and he's not staying with the team. So I don't see him going to a Ray Hall Letterman or Meyer Shank or anybody else. I see him looking to be at the front of the grid like he wanted to be with McLaren and is this year.
Mhm.
Um, it's just unfortunate that it's his second year with the team. He's finally getting comfortable, and the results are coming back. He's regaining his form that he lost when he was with Andretti, and was kind of getting settled in with his first year at McLaren last year. So, I mean, I'm a huge Rossi fan. It's a massive bummer to see, but I'll be curious to see where he goes next year and what resources are going to be made available to him.
Like I said, does he go back to Andretti in hopes of maybe being one of the F1 driver spots? I mean,
No, I think if everything continues playing out the way it is with the Cadillac entry into F1, by the time they got a grid spot, unless they turn around and shock the world and bought Haas or something for next year, I think he would be considered too old. I think they would look to put Herta and somebody else in there.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
maybe somebody from their F2 program that they're going to launch. But yeah, I mean, I truthfully, I don't even know if Rossi wants to go back to F1. He's had experience in IndyCar for 8 years now. He's, an Indy 500 champion. He's ran the, IMSA endurance races with FAF this year since he
Hmm.
had the McLaren connection. He's run, um, prototypes before for other teams. And so I just don't know if he would go back to F1 where it's a lot more rigid and not have all these other opportunities that he seems to be able to do with, or that IndyCar drivers seem to be able to do that F1 drivers don't.
Right.
So I mean, the other question is does Andretti even have an opening? Which I don't think they
True.
do. With the signing of Kirkwood and whatnot, which
Mhm.
took Rossi's old seat. So um, I get the feeling that he wasn't really happy with Andretti at the end, which I can't blame
Right.
him for. So I don't necessarily see him going back just for the possible concession of a, Pato award to um, McLaren thing, just to have, or a Alex Palou to McLaren just to have an F1 connection thing,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
see that blow up in his face again.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see what happens during the off season for teams, or if they announce something before the end of the season. I don't know. Usually in the past, IndyCar drivers have waited till the end of the year to announce when
Hmm.
they are swapping seats because the season ends by the end of August. But this year, it's really just been McLaren playing musical drivers. So
It's gonna be at the
Yeah, it's just I have never agreed with how they've handled their driver situation, and this is just piling on to the crap that they pulled with Siegel and Porsche and whatnot. And it's unreasonable for me to think that whatever they offered to Pato Award to extend him, and they weren't going to do the same to Rossi when you've got somebody that to me is still just as good.
mhm.
It's a solid 1-2 punch against your Penske and your Ganassi outfits. Um, and I just don't think that they valued it. They wanted the young guns. They wanted the years of control, if you will, using
Mhm.
stick and ball sport terminology there. I think they would have had a dominant force if they had Lungard take Siegel's place, and they had Award, Rossi, and Lungard instead of Lungard, Siegel, and Award. But
Right.
I guess we'll find out next year.
Mm-hmm.
True. True. All right. So jump in since we're talking about driver team swaps and everything. We'll just jump straight into a little bit of more off track news that I've got. So last week it was confirmed that HRC or Honda
Mm-hmm.
Racing Corporation is going to have MSR in two of the Acuras next year. Obviously, that means that Wayne Taylor Racing is not returning with Acura.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And they did confirm their tie up with Cadillac starting next year.
yeah, so Wayne Taylor Racing has confirmed that they are running Cadillac next year. So that leaves, again, we knew Ganassi was out at the end of the year. So then who does that leave Ganassi with? For next year if they want to run in top class of prototype again.
Well,
So
the rumor that came out, which I don't know if we have it on our list because I don't have the notes open, but
I
um,
don't have it.
so in connection with the Watkins Glen race last weekend, Chip Ganassi was spotted in the paddock, and so the rumor mill kind of got fired up again, and it got even more momentum when Hyundai was rumored to be reigniting talks of entering hypercar or GTP under the Genesis brand. And so the article that came out from John Dagny's at Sports Car 365 is that Chip Ganassi would be the leading frontrunner to run the factory program for Genesis if that does come to fruition in 2026. So, the GTP regs got extended till 2028 or
9.
29, one of the two,
29.
2029.
Yep.
And so when John Dooner made that announcement, he said they got a lot of manufacturers that were kind of on the fence back engaged because there's value proposition now versus something that was potentially ending in 2 years. You've got 5 additional years that you've tacked onto it. And so that's why these talks with or this rumor with Genesis have picked back up steam. They were kind of floating around at Daytona at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of faded away, and now they're back again. And with Ganassi leaving Cadillac, does he regroup for a year? Does he just take a year off and use that to build a completely new program with Genesis and Hyundai, or does he run a customer car for a year? Which right now the only customer cars available are Porsches. Which I would hate because then I'd have to root against a Porsche car. But yeah, I don't see him necessarily going and running a Mustang in GTD, for instance. Assuming he's still got Ford connections from the GT program.
Yeah, the only way I would see that happening, which I think Ford has already kind of dispelled, that they're looking at the GTP ranks again. So
yeah, they said that the extension of the rule set did not move their meter on doing a top level program anymore. So, but yeah, so we'll see what comes of it. He may just take the year off and focus his efforts fully on IndyCar next year.
Right.
The first full season with the hybrid powertrain and all that fun stuff. But you have to wonder what that means for Dixon in a car next year at Daytona or something like that, because there's no direct ride that Ganassi can just pop them in. So it'll also be interesting because with the news of Andretti going back to Cadillac and Meyer Shank getting both Acuras. We touched on it before, and there was the additional news of Pippo Durrani is leaving Whelen Engineering at the end of the year. But the Taylor brothers, Ricky and Jordan, are. It was suggested that they're contracted to Acura; they're not contracted to Wayne Taylor, and so
yeah, but it sounds like they might be done by the end of this year for their contract anyway. So I mean, it hasn't been confirmed, but
yeah. Didn't Jordan just sign that contract at the beginning of this year?
Yeah, but he has an option out after a year, so I mean that he could choose to exercise that option out. Apparently, I mean this is all again rumors, so we don't 100% know.
But it would be crazy to see the Taylor brothers driving in a Meyer Shank Acura against their dad's team in a Cadillac.
I mean, it's not the first time that they've ran opposite teams, although generally they're not direct they haven't been direct competitors against.
Right, exactly, yeah. I mean, it's not like Ricky ran an Acura when his dad was still running Cadillac, I don't believe. So
yeah, or it's not like it was not like Jordan was running, or like they were running the Acura GT3 car directly against Jordan in the Corvette GT3 or anything like that.
So. Yeah, and I'm suspecting that Pippo Durrani is going to be signed as a Wayne Taylor driver in one of those two Cadillacs.
Oh boy, Durrani and Albuquerque on the same team.
Durrani, Taylor, and Albuquerque in the same car.
Oh man,
the most hated car on the grid, in my opinion.
Just paint it up like the fucking crash dummy cars and let's go. We'll get it bright fucking fluorescent safety yellow and put some spinny safety lights on it and off the races we go.
Yeah, but I mean if I'm Whelen Engineering and I'm planning on running the 31 still next year, I'm looking to Sebastian Bourdais to fill the hole that Pippo Durrani's leaving, because that's a huge free agent now that Ganassi's leaving. I forget who his full season.
Yeah, but
Ranger Van Desendo, that his teammate in the
yeah.
OR? Yeah. And see, I see Ranger going back to Wayne Taylor personally.
Yeah.
In one of those two cars. So
there's
going to be a lot of shakeup.
Yeah, it comes down to, is Sebastian still under contract with Ganassi for a year, and does Ganassi let him. I mean, I guess if Ganassi isn't
If
even
there's
going to
no
run a car,
car, how do you
yeah.
enforce it? So
Yeah, I mean, I could see Ganassi going, okay, yeah, keep running GTP for a year to keep your skills sharp, and then in 26 you come over to, you know,
to
Hyundai
Hyundai.
or
Yeah.
yeah, and you've got Bourdais who's still got, still in top tier GTP or top tier prototype racing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of driver merry-go-round in GTP in the off season because the other unknown is who is going to be driving in the Heart of Racing Valkyries next year. So
Yeah.
we know that AMR Heart of Racing is running the program, but does Ian James and company step up from GT3, or do they pluck existing prototype drivers into that program?
Yeah.
So
My other question too is I'm surprised. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Meyershank is going back to Acura. Considering, kind of how they left Acura.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but as of right now, Honda has no interest of running Le Mans, which is kind of the, kind of what every team wants to do, you know. So, but it sounds like right now HRC is kind of in a mess and doesn't have a plan to run Le Mans at all right now. So,
yeah, I mean, Mike Shank has talked about he wants to go back to Le Mans, obviously. Wayne Taylor talked about it too, and it didn't happen when they were running both cars. So,
but this year, I mean, now that he's going to Cadillac and he'll have the Cadillac program, he could enter a car in Le Mans next year. So,
oh yeah, I fully expect to see a Wayne Taylor car there. And do we see 4 Cadillacs next year with the 2 full season required by WEC starting next year, and then the Wayland Engineering and a Wayne Taylor car?
yeah.
How does that work with the space limitations that they're going to have? So, because I mean, you're gaining at least 4 cars full season next year with having another Cadillac, another Isotta Francini, and then the 2 Valkyries coming. So, they were already capped on space, and I'd hate to see.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly won't be surprised next year or at the end of this year's WEC season, if we get an announcement that there just is no LMP2 next year at Le Mans.
Mm-hmm.
As shitty, as much as that sucks, yeah, as much as that sucks, I could see ACO just going, oh, well, why have 10 LMP2s run this year when we can have 10 more GTPs run?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the way it's going to be. I mean, considering we've got Joda or that's going to be running Cadillac next year. We've got, I mean, like you said, we've got the Valkyries coming in. We've got, I mean, we're going to have, 2 Lamborghinis again. I mean, however many Porsches are going to show up, 4, 6, 3 Ferraris again, possibly a slight rumor of a 3rd Toyota again. I mean, who knows? Plus, I mean, technically next year, Van Wall will be, I think, able to run again. So if they get their motor situations figured out, so
yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, we'll just have to wait and see how everything plays out. So, but I don't know. And then, yeah, if you have Genesis coming in 26, I mean, that's 2 more cars. Alpine's gonna have 2 cars, possibly 4 if they, I mean, do some other stuff. So yeah.
It just feels like a year
Yeah, they
back there.
had 16 LMP2s at
Well,
Le Mans this year.
say you cut it down in half. Say you cut it to 8. Well, then that gives you 8 more GTPs you can run.
Right.
So, or you cut out LMP2 and you put in however many GTPs and then fill the rest with GT3 cars, because we all know there's GT3 cars teams banging down the door to run at Le Mans. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Again, we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like next year when everything starts, when they start releasing their early entry list stuff. So, but I don't know. That's kind of all I've got for news and stuff. I mean, I have on here about the LMP2 regulations possibly getting a complete rework because nobody's interested in that because of money wise. But
That's unfortunate.
well, I mean, the LMP2 program is great the way it is. So
Yeah, I mean, it was funny to read that in European Le Mans, LMP2 got their power bump back that they lost in WEC because of the hypercars. So they're running 600 plus horsepower again in European Le Mans. But yeah, I mean, there's been the debate about what to do with all these customer hypercars. You know, do you introduce them in European Le Mans? Asian Le Mans, like we talked about, is confirmed that there's going to be a hypercar class. So it's a good and bad problem to have so much interest in it. The problem is that we've seen it before, that it balloons and then it collapses on itself, and you really have to make sure that the customer folks are taken care of, because they're the ones that are going to be still around at the end after the factory is deemed that, like Peugeot's already teetering on the edge of, does it make financial sense to continue this program when we're not getting results for it? So, I suspect that within 3 years, we're going to have withdrawals from hypercar because manufacturers are going to go, it's way too expensive, we're not getting results from it. So
yeah, but I mean, at least right now, it looks like the withdrawal side is on the hypercar design side, not the GTP design side. So
yeah,
I'm sure ACO is gritting their teeth on that and are pissed off about that, because how dare their top design don't do well. But
yeah, I mean, you could argue that it's still, for Le Mans specific BOP, it's not exactly conducive to LMDH as being competitive. They've been close. This year was the closest, obviously, and it's only the second year, so there's going to be improvements. It's just what's going to happen after the LMH cars go through their Joker upgrades and evolutions to the cars, and does the gap get closer across the board after everybody does their rounds of upgrades and stuff, or does it grow and become even more in favor of the Le Mans hypercars at Le Mans? Because I mean, that's the one that everybody wants to win and be competitive at. And if the BOP and the ACO is going to play games and make it so only Ferrari and Toyota can be, the selected darlings to compete, then people are going to start pulling out for the championship and start going the way of Glickenhaus and be like, we're only going to run through Le Mans, and after that, see ya.
Right. So, all right. Well, like I said, I think that's kind of all the news we've got for this past couple of weeks. So, just kind of glad we're finally able to get an episode out. So,
and plus you didn't lose your house, which is always a good thing.
So yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna try to report from the tornado shelter last week, but the power decided it was not gonna come back.
Unfortunately.
But all right. Well, then we'll be back next week. Like I said, we've got IndyCar at Mid Ohio. We've got
F1 Silverstone.
F1 in Silverstone, NASCAR at the Chicago Street Course.
That's gonna be hilarious.
I don't think WEC isn't running until gosh, I think like August or something.
I think end of the month in
End of the
Brazil.
month. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the last weekend of the month is in Brazil, which is going to be 900 million degrees of humidity there.
Mountain Tigers.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't think IMSA's running this weekend. I think they're off again. So
Yeah, I think they'll be next weekend,
Yeah.
and that's at CTMP with LMP2s and GTD.
Okay.
Yep.
Which that's been fun to see all the substitutions with all the GTP guys dropping down to run LMP2 for overall class wins.
Yeah. So it's going to be LMP2 plus.
Well, I mean, just think about it. I mean, how aggressive the GTP guys have been in those cars, and then you put them in a spec car like LMP2, it's going to be like MX5s on steroids.
Yep.
It'll be carbon fiber flying everywhere, especially
Yeah,
around
and
CTMP.
yeah. So we will talk to everybody next week then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.